I'm Tim. This PCB Sync.
A lot of people, when they see an RF PCB, think that just covering it with copper is enough. But actually, the D in RF isn't just decorative copper, it's the highway for return current. Today, we'll explain everything clearly with 5 rules. How exactly should you do it, and how can things go wrong? Details. The ground plane needs to be complete. Many engineers like to route traces or dig slots all over the ground layer. It might look like you're saving space, but in reality, you're turning the return current highway into a maze. For the RF current to get back home, it has to take a detour the whole way. Taking a detour means a larger return path area, higher inductance, and more EMI. In short, the ground line and ground plane aren't meant for random routing. If you really can't avoid it, then add more layers instead of breaking up the ground plane by splitting traces or adding slots. A good ground is one that stays continuous right under the transmission line. Second point, the return path should be as close as possible. An RF signal isn't just a single wire, it's a transmission line going out and a return path coming back. If the return path is far from the signal, the return area becomes large. At that point, your PCB starts acting like a little antenna, not transmitting the signal you want, but radiating EMI instead. So try to keep the area under the RF trace as intact as possible. Maintain a continuous reference ground so the return current can follow right alongside the signal line. Third point, don't cross ground splits. This is a classic reflection point for RF. The signal might cross over, but the return current can't make it across. It has to take a big detour, and then you'll see S11 get worse and noise increase. You'll start getting alarms. Congratulations. VA is starting to teach you a lesson. In short, signals should never cross ground splits. Instead, you want something like this: a complete ground plane to provide a return path for the signal line. Avoid any ground that's been cut or split. Fourth point, any isolated ground must be connected to the main ground. A lot of people, when drawing CPW, they lay ground on both sides and think, hey, I'm done. But if these grounds aren't connected to the main ground through vias, to the main ground on the inner or bottom layers, just like in the diagram on the left, they're just isolated islands. They look like ground, but in reality, RF return currents can't flow through them because RF return currents can't connect to the main ground through these two grounds to form a complete return path. So, near the CPW's two sides, near the antenna or connector, you need to use stitching vias to connect the isolated ground and the main ground. Just like on the right side here. Connect the isolated ground and the main ground fully so that RF can have a better and shorter return path. Otherwise, no matter how professionally you draw it, the measurements will end up being mysterious and unpredictable. Finally, let's remember these 5 key points. The ground plane must be continuous. The return path should be as close as possible. Any isolated ground must be connected to the main ground. And whenever the return path changes direction, add stitching vias. A lot of RF problems aren't caused by the chip or the antenna. The real issue is that the current simply doesn't know how to get back home. There may be no error reported, but physics will definitely catch the mistake. Thank you for watching.